Tenda Mwari, Uhuru means freedom, Rastafari, African power for all African people, Hotep. Yes, kings and queens, Shakara with another Kwanzaa reflection for the fourth day of Kwanzaa, which is the day of UJAMAA, UJAMAA, Cooperative Economics. And so we're going to do the reflection for economics, economic development, and all these kinds of things. It has been a very interesting 24 hours, Manalai, following yesterday's reflection on UJAMAA, collective work and responsibility. Yeah, the 24 hours has been very, very, very interesting. We're not going to get caught up in that, kings and queens, you know what I mean? But it's as though like man dropped the reflection and then we found out about very different things that were going on, you know, that really put the reflection into context. In some ways challenged the reflection, and in some ways reinforced the reflection. So we give thanks for that, you know what I mean? That we are topical and pertinent. And you know, timely in that regard, you know what I mean? Man's not gonna get caught up in that though. Right now, we're here to do the Kwanzaa reflection for the day of UJAMAA, so we're gonna focus on that. No distractions right there. We're staying on mission and these things. I gotta do this reflection, and then I gotta go and rehearse with the children for Alkebu-Lan Kwanzaa tomorrow. You wanna know about Alkebu-Lan Kwanzaa? Check out the link in the video. But yeah, it's gonna be a major turn up situation tomorrow, kings and queens. So yeah, come true. All I'm going to say though is that I encourage people to develop their understanding of the Pan-African community and the groups and organizations that exist within it. I think there is an oversaturation of certain platforms, yeah, and so people are only associated with the platforms and don't know much about the community behind the scenes, so to speak, if that makes sense. So yeah, all I'm going to say is I encourage people to check out the organizations in the community. There are many, just I'm saying it's a shout out. Well, I'm part of the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, you know. That's my personal organization. I'm also a member of the UNIA ACO, which is the organization of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, bigging up the President General, Michael Duncan, and our former President General, Baba Senghor Jawara Baye. Shout out to the Uhuru movement. Shout out to the All African People's Revolutionary Party, both of which are international organizations that have their bases on the continent of Africa, or many bases on the continent of Africa, should I say. So big up to those organizations. Big up Moyo Wataifa, which is a Pan-African women's organization that's based here and in West Africa. You know, so we need to know about these people and that are going with these things, kings and queens. You know what I'm saying? Because you know, these are the people that are doing certain works. You understand what I'm saying? Shout out to Freedom Home Academy, yeah, people like Brother Marcus Klein, who are developing African-centered education in a very big way. Shout out to Baba Mwalimu Baruti, yeah, and Mama Baruti as well, Mama Ya Baruti, who run the Akaben Academy, yeah, school. These are people that are doing certain works, kings and queens, that we should know about. These are serious people, yeah, so check out them people there, you know what I'm saying? Be like all of them. Shout out to I'm gonna name some in the UK as well, but we'll save that for later on, because I'm gonna touch on them in the midst of the reflection, kings and queens. I'm just mentioning these names. Yeah, we got Mama Marimba Annie, who I mentioned yesterday as well. But these are people that we need to get to know about. They're not always in the spotlight, in the hype. When it comes to, these are not necessarily names that if you're looking at quote the RBG, the Pan-African community, you're necessarily going to hear in this social media age. But these are some of the stalwarts of the community. I'm mentioning their names so people can go check them out. Not necessarily a Pan-African organization, but we pay honor and homage to the Nation of Islam as well. You know what I'm saying? For setting certain standards out here that many of us could learn from. So we can learn from all the people that I've mentioned above, kings and queens. So check them out. You don't know. Not going to get caught up in the hype, because it's not about that. Today we're dealing with the reflection. Maybe one day I'll come back and deal with that, but today ain't that day. All right. So let's deal with the reflection for today. Today is the day of UJAMAA. Here za Kwanzaa. Bigging up kings and queens. Happy Kwanzaa, that means. Kwanzaa yeno iwe na here. Have a happy and fruitful Kwanzaa. I hope you are having a happy and fruitful Kwanzaa. And we're going to go into this particular day, the day of UJAMAA, the fourth day. And this is a very important topic, yeah, cooperative economics. Now, UJAMAA means cooperative economics, yeah, loosely speaking. And we're going to give you the specific or the more accurate Swahili definition into the English in a second. But for the sake of Kwanzaa, UJAMAA means cooperative economics. And the definition of cooperative economics is to build our own stores, shops, and other businesses, and to profit from them together. To build our own shops, stores, and other businesses, and to profit from them together. Yeah? Okay, that's the definition, that the official Kwanzaa definition of UJAMAA. Yeah? Now, UJAMAA in Swahili literally, more critically or specifically, translates to familyhood. Yeah? And if ones who are up on the history of the African revolutionary era of the 60s and the independence of African states, the man called Julius Nyerere of Tanzania, in terms of economic development in his nation, the nation of Tanzania, initiated the UJAMAA program, yeah, as a means for building Tanzania's economy. All right. And so I'm not going to go too much into that today, kings and queens, but it was an African-centered economic framework that he was seeking to employ in Tanzania, based around the concept of familyhood. Yeah, very, very important. We're going to come back to that. But in order to flesh out this definition, yeah, because it's important that I'm a student of Amos also, you know, so he always says that it's important that we define what we are talking about before we talk about it, so that we're on the same page, yeah? Because many people, especially in the black community, there's a lot of black capitalists, pro-black capitalists in the black community that speak about economics. And often, when we speak about economics, the first thing we begin to discuss is money and maybe business. Yeah. The reality is, kings and queens, that if we're talking about economics, money is very minuscule in the broad context of what economics actually is. Yeah. And money, and I say that meaning money is only as pertinent as its role within the economic system itself. There are economic systems that exist without money. And money, the reliance on money in the economic system is a very new concept. Yeah. And when I say new, we're talking about within the last 500 years. Yeah. Whereby, and even less than that, whereby money is the central focus of the economic system. Another word for money is capital. All right. So we're dealing with a capitalist economy. Yeah. So I'm going to share some definitions, and then I'm going to see if I can share some reflections about how we can apply them to our present day circumstance. Yeah. And hopefully highlight some people that are doing that as well. So we have UJAMAA, to build our own stores, shops, and other businesses, and to profit from them together. That's what the official Kwanzaa definition is. Yesterday I gave you the kujiti wala in Swahili means self-governance. Yeah. And Mama Marimba Annie has given us a reinterpretation of the Nguzo Saba as it relates specifically to the issue of African sovereignty, what she calls African sovereign consciousness. And so I'm going to give you that definition as well, because I feel like it complements and fleshes out and broadens the official Kwanzaa definition in an important way. And what she says is UJAMAA, and she uses the specific Swahili interpretation or translation, which is familyhood, and she defines it as creating economic cooperatives based on the concept of African familyhood, independence, interrelationship, and village and national unity. Once again, creating economic cooperatives based on the concept of African familyhood, interdependence, interrelationship, and village and national unity. Now, one of Mama Marimba Annie's associates, and some might say students in some way, shape, or form, is a man by the name of Mwalimu Baruki. I mentioned him earlier. And this guy, man, is a very serious elder, in the Pan-African community, and is one of the forefront, stands at the forefront of developing independent educational frameworks and institutions, kings and queens. So check him out, Baba Mwalimu Baruti, and I'm gonna put a link to him in the video after I've finished. All right, but he has, in his book Centered, where he's said he's developing African-centered paradigms, African revolutionary paradigms, he gives a definition of economics as well. He says that the economy should I say, he says the economy is that social institution which unites members of society into a network of acquiring, distributing, and consuming the goods and services necessary for their collective survival. Like any other institution, a people's economics is more than the collection, flow, and concentration of material things. At its heart, the social circulatory system of tested and trusted relationships which form an exchange nexus that effectively functions to make this process and give and take perform effortlessly to the benefit of all individuals involved. If you missed that, we're going to come back to it. All right, as Amos Wilson articulated so well, economics is more than anything else, is a set of relationships among a people, a normal, unpretentious flow of communal appreciation, responsibility, and expectation. And it is this set of relationships, this social glue, that facilitates the development and distribution of the needed goods and services among them. Economics is the creation, cause, and direction of what flows. What is exchanged is the social current, in that social current, is only incidental to this. He mentioned Amos Wilson, so I'm going to give you a definition provided by Amos Wilson, or an explanation provided by Amos Wilson, who says that an economic system is not a system of money. It is first and foremost a social system. Economic comes out of the way people choose to relate to each other. In other words, kings and queens, if we're talking about economics, we are not just discussing money, business. We are discussing the interrelated dynamics that exist between how our people relate to each other, relate to their resources, and how they exchange their resources. The point being made here is that before we discuss money and even business, when we're talking about economics, we're talking about our social relationships. An example of this is, in this society, one of the main instruments for guiding economic relationships is a contract. And the contract is not about the finances. The contract is about your obligations to each other in this agreement. And the money is only an instrument of facilitating this particular relationship that we are developing, that is written down in this contract. These are my obligations to you. This is your obligations to me. If any of us break these obligations, these are the penalties for failing to abide by the standards set forth by this contract. It's about our social relationships. And so there is no economy in the black community simply because we buy black. There is no economy in the black community just because black people own businesses. Don't mean we have a black economy because black people have businesses. Those businesses have to be related to each other in very, very specific ways. That are designed to benefit the black community. But if we're going to have businesses that are designed to benefit a community, then it presupposes the fact that we have to have a community. Communities are guided and held together by their culture. Not going to delve deep into culture today, but we've done that before. We're going to do it later on another day, kings and queens. But I just want to make that point. Yeah, that communities are designed, identified and governed by their culture. So no independent culture, black culture, no independent black economy. Yeah, that's the way these things go. All right. So we have that, and then we talk about the fact that in all economies, wherever they are based around how a people negotiate their their resources, their labor, their means of exchange and production. Yeah, their resources, the primary resource is land. Yeah, their labor, their means of exchange and production, kings and queens. Now, in the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, we have a definition of economics, that speaks to the idea of how a people manage and distribute their human and natural resources towards the development of goods and services to meet their own needs. Yeah, it's about having that understanding, and one of the key aspects of any economy is the human resource, the human labor, and these things. Now, we're stuck here in the black community between two major different ideologies. All right. One is the ultra black capitalists who believe that black people having businesses and money is the key component in defining their wealth, and their ability and our ability to be a self-sufficient, self-reliant people. Then you have the others who are really the black socialists, who really have no definition of economics outside of being anti-capitalist. Yeah. When you begin to talk about African or black economic self-reliance, they begin to call you a capitalist. Yeah, which is ridiculous, because economics is not confined to capitalism. You understand? So there are some examples, and these definitions give us a framework through which to look at economics. Capitalism. The primary component, the defining component in capitalism is that it places the emphasis on the ownership of private property, which translates into capital, which has a direct impact upon your economic, your social, and your political mobility in the society. Private ownership, Socialism, they say, is designed on the idea of collective ownership. All right. Now, in the African-centered framework, and this is what the definitions I've given you earlier speak to. UJAMAA, meaning familyhood. How do we, in a capitalist economy, develop an African-centered economic system that is enabling us to meet our own needs, so that we're not capitalist exploiters of our own people, but we're not waiting on European people to decide that socialism and communism is the way forward before we take responsibility for ourselves, economically speaking. How do we do that? And I think, for me, in looking at these definitions, what I've been meditating on today, in meditating on the principle of UJAMAA, cooperative economics, is that it starts with the family. So we have to be about wealth generation in our families. Naked Truth have a saying that love is law, family is business. Family is important because it's the smallest social relationship aggregate that we have. All right. And when I talk about family, I'm talking about it in the communal family sense. So in the sense of mother, father, grandparents, auntie, uncle, and whatever else like that. And we have to be about creating wealth in our families and being connected to other families that have independent wealth. So that now we're already going beyond the idea of private ownership, as in individual private ownership, as the key component in an economic system, even though we're existing in a capitalist society, but we're developing our own economic values first and foremost. Yeah, so family, yeah, has to have its own economic viability independent of working on the plantation. The family has to have a family business that all members of the family are duty bound to contribute to and help develop. And then from that basis, this is what I'm getting from these definitions, we are able to develop a community of families that have some semblance of economic self-sufficiency, that have some semblance of control over their labor and their resources. In other words, they're not working on a plantation. They're working for their own business. So they have not complete, because we still live in a society, but we have some semblance, and we're going on a journey towards having complete control of those resources. So this goes beyond now just business and money. First of all, we have to ask ourselves the question, who are we developing relationships with? Intimate relationships and other familial relationships. Yeah? Exchange money among each other, exchange resources, and exchange goods and services among each other. Then it goes to from family, community to nation. This is what I'm getting from these definitions, kings and queens. All right. So for me, what I'm taking from this is the extent to which man needs to be a stronger component, wealth creator in my family setting, and then be able to identify other families in the community with that same ethos. Yeah, and link with them in terms of, say, the business of my family is property. Yeah, the business of another family, yeah, maybe health and welfare products. Yeah, be it food, be it our external beautification products and whatever else like this. There must be some relationship that we can create across these ties, these lines, that is mutually beneficial to us. Yeah, as the different families. You know what I'm saying? Now, personally, what I've sought to do is begin a social enterprise called the Medjugorje Institute, under which is held Meducation African Center Learning Aids, creating learning aids for African children. But associated with that is the idea of developing African-centered frameworks for education. So next year, we're going to be running a course, an educational course, in terms of what African-centered education is and how we can institutionalize African-centered education on a greater scale in the UK, understanding that we have it on a scale of the many Saturday schools that we have, and I've been at the Saturday schools yesterday, but we want to develop that even more into homeschoolers networks and then eventually full-time schools. Yeah, so we want African-centered education, so we have to develop economic institutions that allow us to develop paradigms for African-centered education and resources for African-centered education. Bigging up a few other people in the community, kings and queens. I want to big up man like Robin Walker, the Black History man, yeah, who teaches, who is really the key Black Studies tutor in the UK. And I'm currently on his course. And we had a heavyweight 7-week aspect of the course on economics and economic development, both individually and collectively, kings and queens. And that was beautiful. So there are people in our community that are teaching about economics. There are others who just teach about financial literacy, which is important because we live in a society and a system in which money is a primary means of exchange. So therefore, information, increasing our financial literacy in the society is important. But most importantly, if we're talking about independent nationhood and nation building, it's imperative to have an understanding of the bigger picture in terms of economics, more specifically. All right, there's that. I'm going to shout out to the Marcus Garvey Nursery. I'm going to shout out to Mimams Mother Earth Mineral and Mining Services. Yeah, Google that. Mother Earth Mineral and Mining Services, a group of Rastafari sisters who have seen the vision of getting involved in taking control and ownership and going into business with small scale miners on the African continent, yeah, to refine precious minerals, kings and queens. All right, I'm gonna shout out to the African Food Hall, brother Sunjata Keita, who has started this initiative with his organization African Family Works, called the African Food Hall, which is about developing supermarkets, black-owned supermarkets all across the country. Yeah. Now, this year we were in the process of bringing all of these, the last three groups that I mentioned, together under something called the Pan-African Investment Day, PAID. All right. My organization, the Alkebu-Lan Revivalist Movement, more specifically the young people, the youth, the army, were about that, bringing these groups and institutions together in one space. Yeah, the whole concept was this: that if economics is about our social relationships, we have to begin to create programs that enable us to develop those social relationships if they don't already exist. Yeah. So there's a community or a community in the making. There are institutions in that community that require economic programs in order to sustain themselves. They have those economic programs. We have to have a medium through which we connect this community in the making with these institutions in the making and bring them together. All right. So the concept of PAID, Pan-African Investment Day, is that each of these institutions have an investment program. The Marcus Garvey Nursery, the African Food Hall, and MEMANS, Mother Earth Mineral and Mining Services. Yeah, they have their investment programs. And the point is that we bring them together for a day. They're able to present their investment programs to the community. The community is able to ask 1,000,001 questions regarding their investment programs, and leaving that, and then at the end of that event, the members of the community are able to choose one or all of these institutions to invest in, yeah, and develop a continuing, mutually beneficial relationship that is developing institutions in the black community that see it with the ethos of developing the black community. No point having black businesses if they're not seeking to develop the black community. So that's one of the things that I've been involved in. What happened was there were some venue complications, and so we had to basically postpone the event. I wasn't able to revive the momentum to have it in 2016, but it's definitely coming in 2017, kings and queens. So stay tuned. Pan-African Investment Day, PAID. Yeah, coming to a venue near you in 2017. Kings and queens. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be bringing that to you. Yeah, we're definitely going to be bringing that to you. And as you can see, like, these are not the free institutions, are not necessarily institutions that I personally have initiated or I'm involved in. These are institutions that brothers and sisters in the community are involved in, so therefore I contribute as a member of the community. Yeah, that's just an example of the works that are going on around here. Big up Black History Studies, yeah, because they have developed I stand at the forefront of developing an institution, an economically viable institution, on the basis of teaching black history. Yeah, very, very important initiative. Big up Pepper Kai book distribution. Elder Pepper Kai has been distributing black books in the community for generations. Yeah, a good 30 years, you know. All right, and still existing, still going. Yeah, think about it. So, by my estimation, the longest standing businesses in the black community in the UK are the black book stores and the black book distributors. Big up Elder Emmanuel, yeah, who of Centerprise, who is also a black book distributor. Big up the Ark Wellbeing Center in Shepherd's Bush, who is by my estimation, the key, and Pempamsey, along with Pempamsey, in Brixton, are the key health stores, yeah, in the black community right about now, kings and queens. Yeah, the Ark Wellbeing Center in Shepherd's Bush and Pempamsi in Brixton. You understand what I'm saying? These are viable businesses in the community. Big up the Mariandina Foundation, which is a health institution. Health is a key aspect of any economy. You understand what I'm saying? And big up all of the health practitioners that are coming together under the auspices of the Institute of African Health and Wellness. Yeah, collectivizing those efforts, coming together. Yeah, to collectivize different health practitioners in different fields in a oneness to develop viable independent health services for our community, kings and queens. So yeah, key aspect to this reflection is economics is 1, bigger than money, 2, bigger than business, and 3 is fundamentally based upon the social relationships that we develop with each other. That is my chakra reflection for the day of UJAMAA, Kings and Queens, Cooperative Economics, or more closely translated means familyhood. And so we have to really fortify our families economically. Have a vision for our family. Yeah, sit down with your wife and your husband today, kings and queens, and include your children if you have them in your economic vision for your family for 5 years to come. Yeah, and in that, as a part of that economic vision, chart a way for how your family is going to contribute to the development of the community at large in a way that when you have a business, that business can be fed back into the community itself, kings and queens. Yeah. Once again, want to invite kings and queens down to Alkebu-Lan Kwanzaa. The big thing is going down tomorrow. Shout out to Mikel Amin. Shout out to Asabi Hawa. Shout out to Tasha Makida. Shout out to Ankh Anum Iyapo. Shout out to the Soul Force Panthers Alkebu-Lan children. Or shout out to Natural Mystic. Shout out to Brother Leader Bandaka. Shout out to myself because I'm the host. Yeah, shout out to the entire Alkebu-Lan family who will be initiating the ceremonial vibrations in the first half, making way for the creative expressions in the second half. Don't know how I'm going to facilitate the chakra reflection for tomorrow, Kings and Queens. We're going to have a busy day, but and it even start today because we've got setting up to do and them kind of things there. But yeah, alkebulan.org, alkebulan.org, Kings and Queens, is the website to check out for all the information. It's completely free on entry. Plenty food and drink is going to be at the occasion as well, and very important, try and get there as early as possible, especially if you've got children. Yeah, for the first half, for all the ceremonial vibrations where we be lighting the Moshuma Saba, which is the 7 candles which represent the Nguzo Saba, which is the principles of Kwanzaa, of which today is the day of UJAMAA. UJAMAA being the 4th principle of the Nguzo Saba, the 4th principle of Kwanzaa, kings and queens. All right, so hope I've said something that we can all take from in the reflection for today. Do feel free to feedback to man, expand upon anything that I haven't mentioned, anything that you wish to compliment or even challenge what I have said, kings and queens. And I also want to give thanks for the love and the response to yesterday's reflection on UJAMAA, collective work and responsibility. Please continue to interact with me on that. Very, very important. That UJAMAA reflection there, I appreciate. And I've also uploaded these reflections to my YouTube as well. So give thanks for listening, kings and queens. We want to say Uhuru means freedom, Rastafari, honoring I and I self within I and I most honorable manifestations. We want to say Hotep, kings and queens, even though there's a fight against the Hotep right about now, but Hotep is a beautiful word. Around here we say Tendai Mwali, African power for all African people. Peace.